أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to all you. I hope you are all doing well. My dear students, as you know, we are doing Hazrat Umar Farooq, the second Caliph of Islam. We have already done the administration or the services of Hazrat Umar Farooq during his caliphate. And then we started his conquests or his achievements. And in his conquests, we have done wars with the Persians in the West. All the wars Hazrat Umar Farooq fought against the Persians, their results, and what happened, the participants, the commanders from Muslim side, from Persian side, we discussed all these things. We also discussed the reasons and causes of these wars against the Persians, and then we discussed some important battles fought during the caliphate of Hazrat Umar Farooq against the Persians. They were Battle of Namarek, Battle of Jaisar, Battle of Bove, Battle of Qadisiyah, capture of Madian, Battle of Jalula, and Battle of Nahawan. Today we are turning towards Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the mighty empire of that time. And today we will discuss the main causes or reasons of these wars against the Romans. That why Hazrat Umar Farooq had to fight against the Romans in the east. The Romans, one of the mighty empires and a constant threat for the Muslims. And then we will discuss some important battles which were fought during this time period. There were several causes or reasons of these wars. My dear students, the relations between Muslims and the Romans were cordial, were friendly at the start of Muslim Empire. They were good. The relations of Byzantine were good with the Muslims in the beginning. King Heraclius welcomed the envoy sent by Hazrat Muhammad, peace be upon him, with a message of Islam. In Madani life, Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, started sending envoys, groups of Muslims with message of Islam, with invitation of Islam. One such group was also sent to the king of Rome, Heraclius. And this group of Muslims was welcomed and honored by Heraclius. But afterwards, the relations got strained, they got deteriorated, they got disturbed. What happened? Actually, the Christian prince of Syria murdered the group of Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, group of Muslims or envoy of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, while he was going to Basra. So, an expedition to Syria was undertaken in order to avenge the murder of this Muslim envoy. So, this was the start of change of relations between Muslims and Byzantines. Then, what happened? During the Khilafat of Hazrat Abu Bakr, Bedouin tribes instigated by the Syrians rose against the Muslims, and the Battle of Ajnadin took place, which was against the Persians. And in this battle, this was against the Syrians, and in this battle, these Byzantine forces were defeated as well. After the death of Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, the tribes living on the borders of Syria and Palestine. So Syria and Palestine were the part of Byzantine Empire at the time. So these tribes who were living on the borders of Syria and Palestine, they helped their relatives in Arabia to attack the Muslims. This was the same situation which I explained in my previous lecture regarding wars of Muslims with Persians, like the situation between Pakistan and Afghanistan. relatives living on both sides, and the people or the Afghanis living in Afghanistan's side, they instigate their relatives who are living in Pakistan side. They, you can say, influence their relatives in Pakistan to create disturbance for Pakistani government. This was the same situation here, that tribes living on the borders of Syria and Palestine, they instigated their relatives in Arabia to attack the Muslims. There were other reasons as well, particularly the seditious activities of the Byzantines, which were a continuous danger to the Muslims. So it was very much necessary that steps should be taken against the Byzantines to stop their seditious activities. So, under all the prevailing circumstances, a campaign against the Byzantine Empire was essential. And then we see some important battles which were fought against the against the Romans, against these Byzantines. One such battle was Battle of Yarmouk. The defeat of the Romans on the Syrian frontier made the Byzantine emperor furious and aggravated. He sent a strong army of 260,000 soldiers against the Muslims. Under the command of Abu Ubaidah, anhu, the Muslim army, which was consisting of 40,000 soldiers, faced the Byzantine army that was encamped in the valley of Yarmouk. So this fight took place in the valley of Yarmouk. There was a negotiation between the two armies, and the Byzantine commander offered a heavy amount of money to the Muslims to leave Syria, which was at once turned down. Muslim commander did not accept this offer of money. Then the Muslim commander offered them the usual option of Islam, that is, accepting Islam, paying jizya, or getting ready for war. The Byzantine commander chose the third option, and they got ready to fight with the Muslims. This battle kept on for 6 days, after which one-third of the army of Byzantines remained in the battlefield. It was divine help. A divine help came. God, with a heavy storm, helped the Muslims by confusing the enemy of Byzantines. The battle ended in a great victory for the Muslims, and the Byzantines lost Syria completely forever. Then comes an important event or achievement in the form of siege or fall of Jerusalem. This achievement also shows Muslims' good relations with non-Muslim states. What happened in this achievement? Let's discuss. After the victory of Yarmouk, the Muslim army spread all around to attack different towns and cities, and afterwards reached Jerusalem. So Muslims were capturing various areas of Byzantine and moving inward. Being a sacred city for both Jews and Christians, Jerusalem was fortified and protected by valleys. The Muslim army advanced and laid siege. The harshness of weather, as well as the strong resistance offered by the Byzantines, dragged the siege on for several months. Muslims had to kept this siege and had to prolong this siege for several months. The Muslim commander Amr bin As anhu, wrote to Abu Ubaidah for reinforcement that Abu Ubaidah with his soldiers should come to help Amr bin As. When the Byzantines came to know that the Muslims were reinforced and more number of soldiers have joined Amr bin As, they lost their heart. Allah filled their hearts with the fear of Muslims and they surrendered. They accepted surrender on the condition that the Khalifa, that is Hazrat Umar Farooq, himself must come to sign the treaty of peace. Hazrat Umar Farooq, after consultation with the prominent companions, responded to their request. He got ready to meet the Byzantine people and their leaders. He proceeded to Jerusalem, leaving Hazrat Ali as his deputy, and went to Jerusalem. Now, here comes the example of the simplicity of the character of Hazrat Umar Farooq as well as the example set for us to be followed. He and a slave rode a single camel between them by turn. Means when Hazrat Umar Farooq was going towards Jerusalem, he was accompanied by one of his slaves. Both there was one camel. So what should be the case that the master, that is Hazrat Umar Farooq, should be on the back of camel throughout to Jerusalem, and slaves should be on his feet. But no, Hazrat Umar Farooq divided this journey into various terms. For some time, Hazrat Umar Farooq will be riding the camel, and for next moment or for next turn, the slave would be riding the camel, and Hazrat Umar Farooq will be on his feet. This shows the greatness of the character of Hazrat Umar Farooq. So, when Jerusalem came, the turn was in favor of the slave. It means when Hazrat Umar Farooq and the slave with their camel, they were entering Jerusalem, it was the turn of the slave to be on the back of the camel. And Hazrat Umar Farooq was holding the rope of the camel and he was in the front. He was moving in the front of the camel. Hazrat Umar Farooq caught the string and the slave was mounted on the back of the camel. A deputation from Jerusalem waited on Hazrat Umar Farooq. When Hazrat Umar Farooq reached, the treaty was signed with the terms that the safety of life and property for the citizens of Jerusalem will be ensured by the Muslims. The safety of the churches and other religious places was also ensured, that no harm will be given to the worship places of Christians. The citizens were bound to pay jizya, and who did not comply with anyone who will not be willing to pay jizya, was allowed to leave the city. When the Patriarch of Jerusalem saw the simplicity of Hazrat Umar Farooq, he said, so Patriarch, the head of, means their religious head, you can say the religious head of Christians. So when he saw Hazrat Umar Farooq on his feet and the slave on the back of the camel, he said, verily, Islam has excelled all other religions. Then the Patriarch handed over the keys of the city to Hazrat Umar Farooq, and Hazrat Umar Farooq expressed his desire to offer thanksgiving prayer because the Jerusalem came under the sway of Islam with the will of Allah. So, in order to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Hazrat Umar Farooq wanted to offer prayer of Shukrana. He was led to a church, but he did not pray there, and left an example for the generations to come, not to change churches into the mosques forcibly. So he refused to offer prayer in the church. With this point of view, if he will offer prayer in the church, the coming generations would consider that Hazrat Umar Farooq offered prayer in the church so that all the churches afterwards should be converted to mosques. But Hazrat Umar Farooq knew the importance of this thing, so he refused to offer prayer in the church. So this shows Muslims' good relations with other states. He was then led to the place where Hazrat Dawood used to pray, and he prayed there. He was taken to Masjid-e-Aqsa. Then comes conquest of Egypt. Hazrat Amr bin As, after the conquest of Jerusalem, got permission to proceed to Egypt. With an army of 4,000, he entered Egypt through Wadi al-Arish. He conquered some towns and then laid siege to Fustat. After 7 months of siege, Fustat was also conquered and captured by the Muslims. The king of Egypt was very proud and haughty and stubborn, and therefore he sent a large army to Alexandria, the capital of Egypt. The Muslims reached Alexandria to crush them, but found the Egyptian army fortified and protected. They were 50,000 in number, while the Muslim army consisted of 12,000 men. The second advantage the Egyptians had was an access to the sea through which help from Constantinople was possible anytime. They had mounted contraptions on the walls of the city, which with which they hit the Muslims with boulders whenever they came close. So contraptions were, you can say, a kind of cannon in which a boulder, a huge stone was used, and that huge stone was thrown on the Muslim army. Many times they came out and attacked the Muslims, but were badly beaten back. Meanwhile, the news of the death of Heraclius, the Roman king, came, and the Muslims were now sure that the possibility of reinforcements to Alexandria were very weak. Therefore, they intensified the attack. The Muslims conquered Alexandria after a fierce fight. Now the Muslims were the master of Egypt, and in this way, a huge territory of Byzantine Empire came under the sway of Muslims, and Muslims captured almost all major areas of Byzantine Empire, and they raised the banner and the flag of Islam in these conquered territories. So, my dear students, these were the important battles of Muslims against Byzantine Empire and their results. So, go through these battles, listen the lecture carefully. Good contents are also given in your book. Go through the contents of these battles from the book and then answer the questions given in your worksheet. With this, we end today's lecture. Inshallah, in the next lecture, we will discuss some more other things about Hazrat Umar Farooq. Till then, Allah Hafiz.